Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hey Team Healthy, glad to be with you on yet another episode of Unbound. These are the series, these are the videos where I field questions and comments from you and then I respond to them. So it allows us to kind of get down in the weeds a little bit with respect to where so many of you live. And today I'm going to be discussing a topic that I'm sure that most of you are incredibly familiar with, at least on an experiential level. And that is, there's so many times when you're trying to talk with a narcissistic individual, you're trying to manage your life appropriately, and the narcissist just has a whole different way of looking at truth and facts than you do. And they have an uncanny knack for twisting around truth because you see, and I've mentioned this so many times, one of the primary ingredients of narcissism is that they're committed to the false self. They have to have a certain kind of veneer that they present to the public that's not necessarily accurate, but it's their way of saying, well, I at least want to try as best as I can to look as good as I can. And then they just also, because of the false self, they have what we refer to as their alternate reality. In other words, they just kind of make up stuff that's going to fit their narrative. And so what it does is it interferes with you as you're saying, well, why don't we be honest with one another? And if the narcissist could be honest, they would say, that's not important to me. Okay, I've got 3 different questions here, and we're going to see what the overlap is and see how this actually plays out in real time. The first person asked the question, how are you supposed to defend yourself from a narcissist when they lie? Everyone else in the house is a flying monkey, and everyone else will probably lie with them. Okay, now, those of you who know me pretty well by now know that I'm already cringing a bit by those 2 words, supposed to. How are you supposed to defend yourself? As if there's a certain formula or trick or a technique that you can pull out and say, oh, this is going to be the thing that works. And the implication here with this question is, well, surely there's a good way, an excellent way for me to defend myself successfully. And then the narcissist, you've already kind of have it fixed in your mind about how we're supposed to respond. The narcissist is going to respond by saying, oh, well, now that you've given me this explanation, that makes all the difference in the world. I will now adjust. Now, I know I'm being a little bit snippy with this, but that's really the way it kind of works. Now, in the same way, space here where you describe how they lie to you and yet you can't really defend yourself, you also mention everyone else in the house is a flying monkey, and they'll probably lie. The narcissist is going to lie. You already know up front that the narcissist is committed to lying, and then their minions, their flying monkeys, the ones who are their enablers, also are committed to their own lies. And so I think one of the biggest problems you have here is your unwillingness to accept the truth that says that they lie, and there may not be any word or action that you can say or do that's going to force them to do anything other than that. And that's a hard thing to have to accept, and yet it's true. So my question to you, as you're thinking, well, I'm dealing with somebody, I'm trying to explain myself, I'm trying to defend my position, but they're going to take my words, they're going to twist it, they're going to lie. My question to you is, in such a moment, who is your audience? Okay? Now, clearly you would be tempted to say, well, I guess my audience is that narcissistic person. And, well, that's the person standing right there in front of you. But I'm wondering if you can decide, no, I've got a different audience in mind. My audience is me. You see, I already have determined or have realized up front that as I explain and defend my position, this person is going to go into dishonesty. You've said it twice here. That person and their enablers, they lie. And so if for no other reason to stand up, if there's no other reason for me to stand up other than for me to hear myself say it, I'm going to do it. And so that's important for you. Now, one of the things is that I hold on to is no pleading, no coaxing, no convincing. It's not your job to make that person understand truth. It is your job for you to stand in your truth, okay? And those are two entirely different things. And so when you say, I'm not going to do what you want me to do because this is my explanation, and you defend yourself, and the narcissist comes back and says, you're the stupidest person I've ever met. And they go on a rant and they start yelling at you or invalidating and saying other things. At that point, you're pretty much finished. And so you recognize, okay, they're going into their truth twisting all over again and their dishonesty. I've said what I needed to say. Now, the rest of my message is going to be behaviorally. And so you act upon what you say, and if the person can't receive it, it's not your job to make them receive it. It's your job to stand and act in an integrous way, okay? Now, I have another one that's of a slightly different nature, but it kind of stays with this theme. The next person says, I have forgiven 1,000,000 times, and it only makes things exponentially worse. His toxic behavior has escalated to the point where he's now out of control. He sees my forgiveness as acceptance. And then this person goes on to say, so don't do it. In other words, don't forgive. Now, once again, I'm kind of wondering, so who are you trying to condense and who are you focusing on as you try to enact what you believe is a right and reasonable principle in life, which is to be forgiving? When you offer forgiveness to the narcissist and you say, hey, look, I know you blew it. You made a mistake. You acted inappropriately, but I'm going to forgive you. Sure enough, we go back to accepting to accepting what's not very pleasant. The narcissist has a self-serving filter that they're going to receive your words with. So if you actually say the words, I forgive, the narcissist may indeed think, okay, well, this means that you're a weakling and I won, I strong-armed you, and so I got away with something. And sure enough, that may be very well what they think. And so the implication in this person's questions or comments is, well, I tried to forgive, but it didn't work. Now, once again, I'm going to ask, who is your audience? And if the audience is only the narcissist and the narcissist says, well, actually, I was pretty good and I'm not that bad of a person, but yeah, sure, I'll take your forgiveness and I can use it against you. Well, that's not going to work out too well. Again, I'm hoping you can remind yourself the audience is me. When I say, or sometimes you don't even need to outwardly declare it to the narcissist, knowing they're going to twist it anyway. When I say I forgive, forgiveness is an accounting term. In other words, you're acknowledging, I realize that you will not be able to repay your debt, and I accept that as reality. And what I'm going to do is that rather than me thinking, well, I have to collect my debt, well, I'm not going to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to release you from any repayment, and then I accept the truth. And you can see that there's a form of boundaries that implies. I don't want to stay inside your world of crazy. I'm going to be a separate person. I give me permission to move on, and I don't want to waste my energy holding on to bitterness and hate and all the rest, because that makes me just like you. That's what we're talking about. And so you'll notice that as you try to speak or act in a way that's consistent with good values and ethics and morality, and the narcissist twists it around and turns it into something, that's on them. I'm hoping you can decide, well, I'm going to do what's right and necessary for me, which is to move away and gain a certain amount of separation emotionally from that person. That's what we're talking about. Okay, now we have a third question here. And this one takes it to a different kind of level. This person says, after living with a covert narcissist for 3 years, I feel I'll never be able to judge anyone again correctly. and will always doubt the good behavior of people. How do you ever trust anyone else's goodness again? Coverts have duplicated and mimic all the good and kind behaviors and gestures. And so you never really know who is who unless you deal closely with them for years or months. Now, there's quite a bit in this one that makes a lot of sense. I thought that I was acting in good faith with this person, and then I found out that they had nefarious schemes, and I wound up being burned, and so they let me believe that they were okay with me when in fact they were not. How am I going to ever be able to trust other individuals again? And the answer is, well, sometimes you have to make room for disappointments, just as you're implying in this. But you see, I have a different question, and this goes back to who are you trying to convince or who you focus most on, and that is, sure enough, I don't necessarily know that everyone in front of me is being straight up with truth, and they are what they purport to be. And so I need to focus once again on the person that I know that I can monitor, and that's myself. And so my question is, even though other individuals are not fully trustworthy and you don't know if they're being honest or not, do you trust yourself? Do you have right integrity and values and principles and standards? And can you determine that despite the fact that you don't know 100% what's going on in someone else's head, are you committed to decency and goodness, and let that be your source of internal strength and even peace? So when the narcissist goes around and to the point where they twist truth and you don't really know if what you see is really what you're going to get, it's a reminder that says I'll do the best that I can to monitor my behavior with that person, but ultimately my task is to take responsibility for me. Lying, twisting, dishonest, manipulative, exploitive narcissists won't do that. I'm going to be a very separate and distinct kind of person from that. That's where you get your peace. Focus on your own personal healthiness as opposed to staying stuck, trying to force that other person to be somebody that they're never going to be. Now, thank you for these people that wrote in these questions and comments. Again, if you have any more of your own that you'd like to, put them in the comment section below. And I do read the comment section, so just know that I appreciate you allowing me to be on your journey with you. Now, if you haven't already done so, please hit the subscribe button, and we'll keep more of these videos coming towards you. It's a privilege that I have to be in your home with you, going over these kind of things. Now, you know I do have a sponsor, BetterHelp.com. It's sometimes when you're trying to deal with this, it's good for you to be able to consult with a therapist. There's a link below. All you have to do is answer a few questions, and you get to select a therapist. If the need is there, please get the assistance that would be appropriate for you. Now, also, I'd invite you to go to my website. And on my website, we have multiple resources. We have my courses, and they're very extensive, and they've proven to be quite popular and helpful in a therapeutic kind of way. Each course has at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and guided questions. We have courses on boundaries, on anger, on finding yourself despite the controller's control, and having healthy connections with others. Also, we have access to my webinars that I presented with plenty of articles, my books, so there's plenty of resources on there. Please avail yourself to all of that. All right. I know that you wish that the narcissist would say, well, now that you've presented truth to me, I guess I'm a changed person. Well, that's not going to happen. But I'm hoping you can decide, well, every time I see them staying committed to their dishonesty, it just makes me that much more committed to my honesty. That's your best response. And be a person of integrity, even though there may be some question marks over there. I hope you have the least amount of question marks in your mind about who you are.